Hello, everybody. State B volleyball state tournament coming up starting Thursday. They're going to play in Huron, and we've got our friends from Adrenaline Volleyball, Haley Dotseth and Darren Tipton, to break it all down. These guys do a great job all season long and of bringing you all the information and more that you need. And the state Bs are fun because there's a lot of excitement. Let's start with you, Darren. What's one of the things people should be watching the Bs for?
Well, I think the story all year has been Northwestern. They have a long win streak. Very, very talented team, defending champs. So can they finish it off? And with again, a very talented team and an unbelievable run that they've had. And then another one is, I think the parity in 2 through 6, 2 through 7, there's some really interesting matchups, obviously. But are we going to be looking at another Northwestern Warner State Championship, right? That rivalry one more time. And so those are the two biggest things. Also, some very talented seniors that have had a lot of state tournament experience going out their last state tournament. You talk about Milius from Faulkton, watching some of those players on TV and giving the rest of the state a chance to see some really talented players that Class B doesn't always get that recognition. And so it's a great thing about it being on TV. State is going to get a chance to see some really talented players that we're lucky enough to get to watch quite a bit. So that's what we'll be looking for, I guess.
Excellent. For some of you State B fans or just volleyball fans who kind of tune in at this time of the year, maybe don't know who some of the impact players to watch are, Haley, get us caught up of some of the top players that we can see in this field.
Yeah, really a class full of a ton of veterans and just girls that have been there and played in either one or multiple state championships before. So, you have to talk about Sydney Schell from Northwestern to go along with Hannah Schepsel, who has really just had a great senior season. If you're going to talk about Bridgewater-Emery, you have to talk about Julia Weber. She's had just an incredible junior season. She was in the state tournament last year as well. Chester area, has a couple of those offensive weapons. Brecken Ewalt and Ella Pry do a really good job in the front row. You have to talk about Peyton Milius too. Feels like she's been around, forever on the outside there. Just racking up the career kill numbers. And then you talk about Warner too. A young player, but still just an incredible player to watch is going to be Ava Nielsen setting the ball for them.
Just kind of getting started, Ava Nielsen. Let's talk about the first matchup of the day. Northwestern has been such a dynasty. They've played, some classes above them. They finally took one loss when they played against O'Gorman here at the Pentagon recently. They get a really athletic team in Corsica-Stickney. Tell us about this matchup, Haley.
Yeah, so Northwestern, again, one of those very, very experienced teams. I think this contrasts a lot with it being Corsica-Stickney's first trip to the state tournament. I think the contrast between these two teams will be interesting. And if Corsica-Stickney can come out and really have that super positive, no-nerve attitude, could end up knocking off a really talented Northwestern team. But I think, kind of a tall task for, again, just such an experienced Northwestern team.
The old 4-5 matchup, Coleman-Egan has proven that they can play well against some good competition, but they get Bridgewater-Emery, a team that has been so solid. You talked about Julia Weber. What do you see in this matchup?
Yeah, so this is one of my picks for kind of the best Thursday night matches. I know as we talked about all these different classes, there's so many great 4-5 matchups, but I think this is going to be one of my favorite to kind of keep up with because both these teams are kind of up and coming. Colman-Egan is at their first state tournament in Colman-Egan and just the second in Bridgewater-Emery. So both new teams, not so much experience. But about 80%, like I said, of the offense of Bridgewater-Emery comes from Julia Weber and then the right side, Taylor Schallenkamp. So they were both at the state tournament last year. I think kind of got a bad taste in their mouth after losing in that first round. So I think they're going to be hungry and ready for more. But again, Coleman-Egan too, just such a solid team that's kind of had an unstoppable season only with a few hiccups.
Who's saying hi to us there? Who's barking at us?
Yeah, we got a few dogs barking in the distance.
That's totally fine. So we go
Those are my
from
kids,
two
Jace.
teams.
They miss me because I'm on the road, so they're saying hi.
I
to
know.
me.
They can hear your voice. They know something's
Yeah, I'll have
going
to turn
on
the
here.
volume down.
So we go from two rather inexperienced teams to two teams that are familiar with playing in the state tournament. Chester area taking on Faulkton area, who had the toughest time making the state tournament of anybody in this Class B field. Darren, break this one down for us.
Well, first of all, this is a rematch of what I thought was probably the best match of all three classes last year in the state tournament. It was played an epic opening night match, went to 5. Every point was, just on pins and needles. And so I know Chester coming in is thinking about that match from last year. And, really a contrast with Chester with kind of new and the old. They have some very, very young players they're filling in their lineup. And then Haley talked earlier about their very experienced front line. And then Kenneth Brown, who's been their setter for, I think, the past 3 years. And so this one really is a coin flip. To me, the difference will be, I think, what team plays the best defense for the simple fact that Faulkton's talked about that all year with Nelius and with Aesop. Very, very similar to each other. I don't know what's going to be the back row play for both teams. It's kind of been what the coaches have focused on all year to that. So this one, it's 3-6, but teams that are, even though they don't play each other regular season, they're familiar with each other. They know a lot about each other, and they're, really identical to each other. And also their leaders have had state tournament experience, and both programs have had state tournament experience. So there shouldn't be the nerves. You got to watch for what team, again, has the fewest defensive mistakes will be the team that survives out of this. But this is as close to a coin toss game to me as we maybe have in all three classes.
All right, and then we get that 2-7 matchup to cap the night off, and that is Warner, who has been a very dangerous team all season long, and Hitchcock-Tulare, a team people might not know very much about. Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, Hitchcock-Tulare, this is a great story. First time in, with their co-op, they made the state tournament. I believe one of 4 teams making their first state tournament experience. Coach Opp, forever, congratulations to him. This is what's cool about the state tournament is seeing the Class B schools, they make it for the first time. You watch your Sodak 16 match, it was just pure joy, celebrating. So that's really cool. And then they play Warner during the season. So this is one of those Northeast South Dakota, rematches. They're familiar with each other. Warner, pretty easy time with them earlier in the year. When you watch Warner, it's just a different team. They are all defense. Right. I think, the best defense of Class B, one of the top defensive teams in the state. Their problem is lack of height maybe, and, they don't have the height that some other teams do. It gives them mismatches. Hitchcock-Tulare does, but I think they're going to have a hard time scoring against that Warner defense. So I think that's what probably, carries Warner through. In this, and that's what's going to have to carry them through this entire tournament. But Hitchcock-Tulare does. They have an 8th grader, Schroeder, that people need to keep an eye on. It'll be cool. And then Kennedy and Ander that's played, been their setter for 3 or 4 years. Really cool to see these kids get the experience, the opportunity to be in the state tournament. Just they know it's a tough task against Warner, and the fact that there isn't that unfamiliarity, both teams will be prepared. I just think that's probably in the Monarchs' favor.
A lot of good stuff happening on Thursday. This is going on in Huron. And I want to know who you guys think are going to win 2 games in a row in this tournament. And let's start with Haley. A lot of people are going to pick Northwestern, I assume. But what do you think is going to happen, and who's going to be playing on Saturday night?
Yeah, I hate to be predictable here, but I think I have to go with, you have the number 1 offensive team in the state in Northwestern, and then I got to pick, the number 1 defensive team in the state too in Warner. I think that's going to be a really fun 1 versus 2 kind of rivalry rematch. really fun championship game to watch. I'm kind of hoping it's those two, just the familiarity will be, a lot of fun to watch. So that's my pick at least.
All right, what do you think, Darren?
Yeah, I have to say the same thing. I could see that Chester-Warner possible semifinal being a great match if that were to happen. But and we keep watching, but the more and more coaches we talk to just say Warner's defense is so solid. No big mistakes. It's gotten better all season long. And they've been there before. And so Warner Northwestern for me as well.
Well, I agree with both of you guys. I think that's going to be our matchup on Saturday night. I would be surprised if somebody upends that. Of course, it's the state tournament. Anything can happen. I promise we'll be less boring on our other two previews. But I agree. I think it's going to be Northwestern and Warner playing on Saturday night. Tell us what you guys are going to be doing for coverage on this weekend.
Yeah, well, a little bit of a challenge this year with 3 sites. So I'm going to take on the A's. Haley's going to be anchored on the double A's all weekend. And then we have Moira Duncan has been helping us out this year. She's a freshman at USD. But she's going to be up the Class B's helping us here on. So we're going to be doing daily reports. Haley, stats, right? And highlights every day, and then recaps the best we can. And so I'll be anchored there. And then Haley, what else do we have going on?
Yeah, well, we'll be putting most of our coverage on our Instagram, which is just Adrenaline_volleyball. And then a lot more of that in-depth and daily recap highlights will be on our Patreon channel, which is patreon.com/Adrenaline Volleyball, just flat out. So we'll just try to keep everyone updated. And I know it's kind of a tough year for volleyball fans or sports fans in general. So just trying to keep everyone up to date. Again, we'll have stats and recaps for people who can't make the trek out to see the state tournaments this year.
Yep. And Jace, one more thing I forgot to add, but Wednesday night, we've always done a fundraiser charity event for the state tournament, and that's obviously changed a little bit. So what we're going to do Wednesday night is through our Facebook Live, our Adrenaline Volleyball Facebook Live. We're going to do kind of a teaser for the Thursday matches, just news and notes, random information. And then we're going to do what's called an hour-a-thon fundraiser in conjunction with that. So anybody that gives, Adrenaline is going to match the proceeds during that. And then that money will all go towards food banks and then feeding South Dakota people in this tough time. So it'll be a cool thing Wednesday night. Haley and I will be doing, we're still working out the logistics of how we're going to do it from different locations. We're figured out. And so we'll have information and would love for people to give if they're willing and to help some people out as we kind of do a pre-tournament show on Wednesday night.
All right, you guys do a great job of covering high school volleyball. I can't wait to see how this thing unfolds. We appreciate all the people and all the teams out there who are getting ready to go root their team on to a championship. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.